Hi everybody. This chapter is also important from practical point of view. Contaminated water, very important. You can see the difference between this leg and this leg. This is a normal leg. And what are the factors which enable the growth of this fungus? Hi everybody. Welcome back to session 3 of this very important chapter called Human Health and Disease. So as I told you all in the last session, this chapter is very apt chapter for us to learn at this point of time where we all are facing this deadly coronavirus pandemic, right? Let us not worry about that virus now. Let us study what are the very important concepts of this very important chapter called Human Health and Diseases. What did we learn in the last session? That is session 2 of this very important chapter. We studied about what is a disease, right? It is nothing but abnormal functioning of one organ or two or more organs which come out with what? With signs and symptoms. And we also studied about the types of diseases like the infectious diseases and the non-infectious diseases. And also we studied about the infectious disease which spreads from one, that is from the infected person to a healthy person, and non-infectious diseases do not spread from a infected person to a healthy person. That which does not spread is called as a non-infectious diseases. And in the last session, we also studied about some examples of the infectious diseases like the bacterial disease, we took the classical example of typhoid, then pneumonia, then we also studied about the viral disease called common cold, then we studied about a protozoan disease called malaria. So what are we going to study in this session? Continuing the remaining concepts of this very important chapter called Human Health and Diseases, we are going to study about some more diseases. So far we studied about typhoid, pneumonia, common cold, malaria. Now let us study about amoebiasis, ascariasis, filariasis, ringworm disease, and what are the preventive measures we need to take to control to protect ourselves from this infectious diseases. Moving on to the very important concept of this session, that is about amoebiasis. Amoebiasis is also called as an amoebic dysentery. It is also called as what? Amoebic dysentery. As I said, this chapter is also important from practical point of view. Some concepts what you learn here is also applied for your practical. That is the reason I told you this chapter is important both from examination point of view and also from knowledge point of view. So what is the pathogen? What is the causative organism for amoebiasis? It is an protozoan called entamoeba. Again, this is a protozoan disease. As I said, we classify the infectious diseases into different types based on the pathogen. What is pathogen? The disease causing organism, may it be bacteria, may it be virus, may it be fungi, helminth, that is the worm, etc., right? So based on the mode of infection or based on the causative organism or the pathogen, we classify the diseases into different types. Here amoebiasis is one such disease which is caused by a protozoan called Entamoeba histolytica. Oh, so what is the causative organism for amoebiasis? What is the other name for amoebiasis? It can also be called as what? Amoebic dysentery. Right, it is a what type of parasite it is? It is a protozoan. Right. What are the organs affected? The organ which is affected is the large intestine of man. Very important. Large intestine does what? It does the absorption and the elimination of the undigested food from the body. So it's a very important part of the digestive system, that is large intestine, and this protozoan parasite is going to affect what? Large intestine. So what is the method of transmission? As I said, there are various mode of infection, may it be through food or through water or through air. So now let us study what is the mode of transmission of this protozoan parasite. House flies acts as a mechanical carrier. Very important. Suppose you just keep your food open and the house flies come and sit on that food and we eat the same food. So uncovered food when we have, definitely we are going to get this amoebic dysentery. That means to say what? Who are the carrier of this protozoan parasite, that is housefly, which acts as a mechanical carrier of infection when a person takes food contaminated with cysts of entamoeba. Sometimes the cysts of entamoeba, as I said, it will be in the house, that is on the food, and when we have that food, definitely we are going to get infected with this protozoan disease, that is amoebic dysentery, right? So the very word itself will tell you, loose stool is called dysentery, amoebic dysentery. So what is the name of the pathogen? What do you mean by pathogen? The disease causing organism, Entamoeba histolytica. And what are the organs affected? Large intestine of man. What is the method of transmission? Houseflies, which acts as what? Mechanical carrier of the infective parasite, and which usually you come across what? Infection occurs when a person takes food contaminated with the cysts of entamoeba. When you take a healthy food, that time you will not get. So only when the uncovered food, which is where you can come across the housefly. Housefly is the carrier of this protozoan parasite. Now what are the symptoms? As I said, we discussed in the previous session, any disease will come out with certain signs and symptoms, which is an indication of a disease. Very important is constipation, right? Sometimes constipation occurs, abdominal pain and cramps. Abdominal pain, here you can see this person just holding his stomach. So what does it mean? He's having some problem with the stomach, that is abdominal pain and cramps. And also I said, the very word itself will tell you, dysentery. Dysentery means what? Stools with excess mucus and blood clots. It is also an indication. So if the stool is passed on with, the excretory matter is passed on with excess of mucus and blood clot, it is an indication of what? Food contamination. Contaminated with what? Cysts of entamoeba, which will lead to what we call it as amoebic dysentery. So this has to be taken care. That is the reason whatever food we eat should be covered. So uncovered food should not be taken. So as I said, hygienic practices is very, very important for us to get rid of the diseases. Hope you have understood what is amoebic dysentery, what are the organs affected, the method of transmission, and what are the symptoms. Moving on to the next diseases, that is helminth diseases. The very word helminths are also called as nematodes, that is worms. They are also called as what? Helminths are also called as what? Worms. And a very common helminth disease is called ascariasis. The disease is called ascariasis. Then what is the pathogen, or which is the causative organism which causes ascariasis? It is nothing but a Nemathy helminth or a Asci helminth worm called Ascaris lumbricoides. It is called Ascaris lumbricoides. Anyhow, you have studied in your first PUC where the sexes are separate, where you differentiate a male Ascaris from a female Ascaris, whereas the female Ascaris is longer than the male Ascaris and one end of the male Ascaris is coiled, right? So name the pathogen that causes ascaris, that is Ascaris lumbricoides, which is a nematode. Nematode means what? Worm. What are the organs affected then? Obviously the intestine of man. Both definitely we come across that most of the diseases are concerned with the digestive system. So here the organ which is affected is what? Intestine of man, small intestine of man. What is the method of transmission or the mode of transmission of this ascariasis? Same, contaminated water, vegetables and fruits. Contaminated water, very, very important. We should always use or consume what? Clean water, right? So it's very, very important. So contaminated water is a root cause for the transmission of this ascariasis disease. And even vegetables, if we don't wash the vegetables properly, even the fruits properly, and then consume it, definitely there are chances of getting this nematode disease, otherwise called as ascariasis, right? So ascariasis, which is the pathogen? Ascaris lumbricoides. Organs affected is what? Intestine of man. What is the method of transmission? Method of transmission is what? Contaminated water, vegetables and fruits. Symptoms. Even this disease also will have some signs and symptoms. So what are the symptoms? Internal bleeding. Sometimes internal bleeding may happen, right? But we will not come to know. Muscular pain associated with what? Muscular pain, fever, anemic, Due to this internal bleeding, they'll become anemic. Blockage of the intestinal passage. As you know, intestine is a very, very important part of the digestive system, where maximum food is, that is the major food is digested in the small intestine, and absorption also takes place in the small intestine. And imagine if small intestine is blocked, definitely the digestive system is going to get disturbed. So this is all about the Helminth disease. Hope you have understood that is about Ascaris, the pathogen, the organs affected, the method of transmission, and that is the next, the symptoms. Moving on to the next very important called filariasis. Filariasis, or it is otherwise called elephantiasis. What is this? What is the causative organism? The pathogen is Wuchereria bancrofti. There is one more called Wuchereria malayi, right? And again, this is also a nematode. Nematode, that is worm. Here you can see the elephant leg. This is called elephant leg. You can see the difference between this leg and this leg. This is a normal leg. And what is this? This is called, it's almost swollen like an elephant's leg. Hence the name elephantiasis. It is called elephantiasis. Why? Because it is going to affect what? Lymphatic vessels of the lower limbs. It is going to affect the lymphatic system of the lower limbs, and even sometimes the genital organs, right? There are chances of the lymphatic vessels of the lower limb being affected, or even the genital organs. So because of the infection to the lymphatic vessels of the lower limbs, here you can see a swollen leg like this. Hence the name elephantiasis. What is the method of transmission? It is through the bite of an infected female Culex mosquito. That is, it is what is the mode of, there it was the mode of transmission was through contaminated food, contaminated water, that is contaminated vegetables and fruits. But here the method of transmission or mode of transmission of this elephantiasis or filariasis is through biting of an infected female Culex mosquito, right? Hope you have understood about filariasis. So what is the causative organism? Wuchereria, that is Wuchereria bancrofti or Wuchereria malayi. Then organs affected is what? Lymphatic vessels of the lower limb or the genital organs. And what is the mode of transmission? Biting of the infected female Culex. And here you can see the elephant leg. Swollen like an elephant leg, hence the name elephantiasis. Easily you can make out the difference between a normal leg and an elephant leg, right? Next, symptoms. What are the symptoms? Chronic inflammation of the organs where they live for many years. Here you can see inflammation means what? Swollen. It is so much swollen, like it looks like a big elephant leg, right? Hence the name. As I said, it is elephantiasis. Abnormal swelling of lower limb. Scrotum, sometimes, as I said, it is a part of what? The reproductive system in male, and the genital organ of male called penis. So as I said, it may infect the lymphatic vessels of the lower limb, or it might infect the genital organs, right? Hence the disease is named as what? Elephantiasis or filaria, because it's a filarial worm. Wuchereria bancrofti is called a filarial worm. As I said, all these are worm caused by what? Diseases caused by worms, hence it is called filariasis, right? So that is about the filariasis. Now, ringworm disease. So far we were discussing about amoebiasis, we were discussing about filariasis, then we were discussing about ascariasis. Moving across to the next very important disease called ringworm disease. Ringworm disease is nothing but a fungal disease. We studied about bacterial diseases like typhoid, pneumonia, viral diseases like common cold. Then we studied about malaria, that is a protozoan disease. Amoebiasis is again a protozoan disease, right? Then we studied about what? The next very important ascariasis, which is called as a Helminth disease. And even filariasis or elephantiasis is also a Helminth disease. And we are moving on to the last but one disease called ringworm disease, which is a fungal disease. Disease caused through a fungi. What is the name of the pathogen or the fungi? It is called Microsporum or Trichophyton and Epidermophyta, or the fungi, are the different species of fungi. Trichophyton is the most common, right? So what is the name of the pathogen which causes ringworm disease? It is a fungi, that is called fungal disease. What is the method of transmission? Acquired from soil. There we came across acquired, that is mode of transmission was through the bite of female Anopheles mosquito, Culex mosquito, then through contaminated water, through contaminated food. But the mode of transmission in case of this ringworm is through soil, using the towel or the clothes of an infected person. When we use the clothes or even the comb of an infected person, we use it, then even the healthy person also will get this ringworm disease. So clothes or even the comb of infected individuals. So what is the mode of transmission of this ringworm disease? It is either through soil or using the same clothes or even the comb, like even certain things which we use in our daily life when we share it. So even the chances of getting infected with this ringworm is quite common. Now what is the appearance? What do you mean by symptoms? Symptoms is nothing but the signs which a disease will exhibit. It's a very, very important feature also of a disease. Whenever you go to a doctor, first doctor asks for the symptoms or the signs. Based on the symptoms and signs you are going to tell, then the doctor will diagnose the disease and proper medication or treatment is given for that particular disease, right? So signs and symptoms are very, very important. And when we go to a doctor, we are supposed to disclose the signs and symptoms without any hesitation. If not, the doctor will not be able to identify the cause for the disease and give proper treatment, right? So we need to tell what are the symptoms we have whenever we come across any abnormality or any diseases. Appearance. So what is a symptom in case of ringworm disease? Appearance of dry, that is appearance of dry scaly lesions. Here you can see in this picture, this is a ringworm disease. See how it looks. There's a patch. You can see a round patch with a swollen, this one reddish, this one swollen skin. So it is nothing but what? Appearance of dry scaly lesions in skin, nails and on scalp also you can see. Lesions means what? Wound. Small wounds we can say, right? Even on the scalp. And when you just scratch your head for a longer time, definitely there will be a small lesion on the scalp, right? Lesion accompanied with intense itching. So this is one such disease which is accompanied by intense itching. So you'll have that itching. That is also an indication that maybe you are infected with a ringworm disease. Heat and moisture help these fungi to grow. What are the factors which enable the growth of this fungi? That is moisture and heat. That heat and moisture are the temperature or the conditions which favor the growth of this fungi. Hope you have understood about ringworm disease. So what is ringworm disease? It is caused by a pathogen called Microsporum or Trichophyton or Epidermophyta. Then organs affected are what? Skin, nails, folds of skin and groin. Even that is a reproductive part, the genital part you can say. Method of transmission is what? Acquired from the soil or from the clothes or even the comb of a infected person. When we share it, definitely we may get this disease. What are the symptoms? Appearance of what? Dry scaly lesions in the skin, then in the nails and in the scalp. Lesion accompanied with what? With intense itching. And what are the factors which enable the growth of this fungi? It is heat and moisture. Hope you have understood about this ringworm disease. Moving on to the very, very important aspect of this session. For any problem, there is a solution. As I keep on telling that for every problem will have a solution. So for any disease, there will be some medication or some preventive measures which we need to implement to get ourselves not getting infected with these diseases. So right now, I think this is the right situation where, what is the preventive measure for us to protect ourselves from this deadly coronavirus? Wearing of mask, then maintaining social distancing and always using sanitizer. We need to keep our hands clean, and that is one mode is what? Use of sanitizer. So when you follow these three very important hygienic practices, definitely coronavirus will not come to us, right? So follow these three very important instructions, and also what? Social distancing is very, very important. So stay home and stay safe. So what are the prevention and control of these infectious diseases. So there are certain things which we need to follow so that we can avoid getting infected with these diseases. Obviously, we are a part and parcel of this environment, and the disease causing organisms are also a part of this environment. So in one way or the other, we will get encountered with these disease causing microorganisms. Can we keep ourselves always protected? No, it is not possible. But sometimes when we maintain certain hygienic practices and maintain some hygiene conditions, definitely will not be prone to this deadly diseases, may it be even coronavirus also. So what is the maintenance of personal and public hygiene is very, very important for prevention and control of many infectious diseases. It is not just personal hygiene, even public hygiene. So we are all social animals. We are living in a place where we are living in a society. So where we come across many people. So in that case, we need to take care of ourselves, and we should also think of the safety of the other people. As I said, social distancing will not only help us to protect from the coronavirus, it will also help the others also from being protected from this coronavirus. So in a similar way, personal hygiene as well as public hygiene, both are very, very important for a very important preventive method to control the infectious diseases. Now let us see one by one. Personal hygiene. What do you mean by personal hygiene? Certain things which we as an individual need to follow. What is that? Consumption of clean drinking water, as I said. Many diseases are caused through what? Through what? Drinking water, through food, through vegetables, fruit, ascariasis, as I said, right? Then vegetable, fruits, etc. Then keeping the body clean. Very, very important. We need to keep our body clean. Then only our body will not be prone to diseases. Personal hygiene is very, very important. Brushing the teeth, having bath, washing our hands frequently. All that before you have your food, you need to wash your hands. So all these are the hygienic practices which we need to follow as an individual. Public hygiene includes what? This is all about personal hygiene. What is public hygiene? Proper disposal of waste and excreta. Very, very important. Garbage. Disposal of a garbage is a big challenge to the society itself, right? So waste are definitely produced. Garbage is definitely produced in our everyday life. That doesn't mean to say that you need to spill around everywhere. We need to keep the surroundings clean, right? We need to see to it that the waste or the garbage is disposed in a proper manner, because they are the very important means of what? It is a breeding, it is a place where the most of the infectious diseases are going to spread. So we should take care that there is proper disposal of waste, and particularly the excreta. Sanitary measures, good proper sanitary measures have to be taken. Like I think nowadays the government has come out with toilet concept, where many villages did not have washrooms, or what we call it as toilet, but now the government is very particular about setting up toilets even in the rural areas. In urban areas, I think it is quite common, but in rural areas, washroom concept was very, very new to them. But now everybody is having that awareness of using a toilet, and that is what I mean to say about proper sanitary measures. Then periodic cleaning and disinfection of water reservoirs, pools and cesspools. Very, very important. We should never allow, for example, malaria. Stagnant water is a breeding place for the malaria. So how do we avoid this malaria? They never allow the water to remain stagnant for a longer time. And not only that, we need to keep cleaner air coolers where the water is stored for a longer time, even the water tanks, or even the overhead tanks, or even the containers what we use in our daily life. May it be the drinking water containers or the daily use water containers. They need to be frequently changed, because as I said, stagnant water is a breeding place for the mosquitoes. And not only that, we need to use what? Mosquito net, so that we are not bit by the mosquitoes, so that we can avoid what? Which type of disease? Malaria. Right? So standard practice of hygiene in public catering, very, very important. Avoid eating from the roadside vendors, because the hygienic practices are not followed in cooking or maybe in serving the food. The plates or the spoons that are used for serving on the road may not be quite safe for us. So better is avoid eating from the roadside vendor. Avoid eateries on the roadside, right? Public catering. Suppose you are like for example, if a roadside person is selling some food, he or she should take care to see that public that is the hygienic practices are maintained while cooking or while serving the food to the customer. It's a very, very important thing to be noted. Why? Because it is the safety of a people, right? Nowadays at this point of time, think of having food on the roadside is really something unimaginable, right? Like having food at home only is we are scared to have food at home only because of this coronavirus. Where do we think of having food from the roadside vendors? It is definitely not suitable at this point of time. Then in case of airborne diseases, close contact with the infected persons or their belongings should be avoided. For example, common cold, as I said, very, very important. Wearing a mask is very important. As I said, the infected droplets or aerosols that are coming out or that are released from the infected person definitely is going to affect the healthy person. So we should make sure that in case of airborne diseases, as I said, coronavirus, have we ever seen, has anybody seen the coronavirus? Definitely not. But imagine the amount of havoc it has caused, not only in our country, the whole world is shaken by this coronavirus. Nobody has seen the coronavirus. Why? Because it is an airborne disease, right? And contact with infected persons or their belongings should be avoided. These are all the preventive measures which we need to implement so that we'll not get infected with this infectious disease. As you know, the very word itself will tell you, infectious diseases means what? Diseases which is going to spread from a person to person. So we should take the utmost care to see that we are not infected, right? Next, for vector-borne diseases. What do you mean by vector-borne diseases? There are some, for example, mosquito is a vector, which is a causative organism is a pathogen called Plasmodium vivax. But the vector means agent which causes the disease is what? Is called as a vector. So what are the measures we need to take for vector-borne diseases? Let us see one by one. Controlling or eliminating the vectors and the breeding places. Just now I told you, never allow the water to remain stagnant. Clean the water containers frequently. And not only that, we should keep our surroundings clean. Particularly the surroundings around our house and in the public places should be very, very clean. As you know, they are the main places where the diseases are going to spread. So, controlling, eliminating the vectors and the breeding places. Never allow the stagnant water to remain for a longer time, as it is the best breeding place for the mosquitoes. So you can see good number of larvae, and definitely the mosquitoes will be there, and definitely the chances of getting infected with malaria is quite possible. Then avoiding, as I said, stagnation of water in and around the residential areas. Regular cleaning of household coolers, air coolers. We might use it for our comfort, but at the same time, maintenance is very, very important. What do you mean by maintenance? Cleaning the water from the air coolers. You never allow the air cooler water to remain stagnant for a longer. Frequently, it has to be changed. Household coolers. Then use of mosquito net. Very, very important. Nowadays, this concept of using mosquito net has gone. Right? We use this mosquito repellent, or we use this mosquito mat, etc., etc. Even that, right? But the best method to avoid the mosquitoes is what? Putting a mosquito net. Whenever we sleep, we should make sure that we are having this mosquito net. So that is also one best practice of not getting infected with malaria, or we can avoid getting bit by the mosquitoes. And introducing fishes like gambusia in pond that feeds on mosquito larvae. Very, very important. And this has been practiced definitely. This gambusia fish are introduced into the stagnant, or may it be a pond or a lake, so that it will start eating the larvae of the mosquito. So it is one very good idea where you can avoid what? The larvae of mosquito. As I said, that is a stagnant water is the best breeding place for the mosquito. And so suppose if mosquitoes are also there, and the larvae of mosquito if you find in water, but when you introduce this gambusia fish, it is going to eat the larvae of the fish, and definitely it can avoid what? The multiplication of or the breeding of mosquitoes. So very, very important concept. Spraying of insecticides in ditches, drainage area and swamp. Swamp means what? When there is a heavy rainfall, you can see a small pond filled with water, and that water remains for a longer time. That is called as a swamp, right? So spraying of insecticide is also very, very important. So you can avoid where in ditches, drainage water and swamps. Window and doors must be fitted with wire mesh. So nowadays most of the houses will have this wire mesh. The window panes will have this wire mesh. This is also one play. Either you can use the mosquito net during sleeping, or during daytime we can't use a mosquito net. So what do? We can use that window and doors must be fitted with a wire mesh. So all these precautions are useful for what? For vector-borne diseases. So only when you follow all this precautionary measures, definitely we can avoid getting infected with the diseases, particularly the vector-borne diseases, where the mosquito is a causative organism, is a main vector for the cause of malaria. And even not only that, you might have come across a deadly nowadays, like it has become we are afraid of this chikungunya, then malaria, of course, then the filarial worms, right? Hope you have understood all the concepts what I have explained in today's session. So in the coming session, I'll be dealing with what is immunity, what are the two types of immunity. Then you'll be studying about the barriers, the physical barrier, physiological barrier, cellular barriers, etc., etc. That is the remaining concepts of this very important chapter called health and diseases. Hope I have made clear about the concepts what I have explained in today's session. I'll be meeting you all in the coming session with some more very interesting concepts of this very interesting chapter called human health and diseases. So till then, goodbye and thank you.